Elizabeth and I bought a large house and filled it to capacity. When we moved in with 3 kids, there was just a bit of elbow room left over, and we filled that too. She gave birth to William on our living room couch, and now we are 6. 2 children, 2 teenagers, and 2 adults. As the person who does all of the laundry, most of the cooking, and the only one who knows how to replace a toilet paper roll, I've explained it, I've demonstrated it, but every time a roll runs out, I find a new roll on the floor. Nobody else can negotiate with the springy thing. I don't even know what it calls itself, but I know how it thinks, what it wants, so I can make it work. I tell the kids, you've got to think like the springy thing, but it's no use. They look at me like I'm crazy. Also, I'm the one who gets to dig the hair clogs out of the drains. Anyway, as the guy in charge of the monthly drain clog, the weekly laundry piles, and the daily roll of toilet paper, I can report that our habitat is amply inhabited. The population of 6 is just the people. Plus, we've got Daisy, who, as far as we can tell, is 1/3 Welsh Corgi, 1/3 Australian Dingo, and 1/3 Rocket. And Malcolm's got 2 ferrets. They somehow slink and weasel into his bureau and nestle pungently in the clothing I've washed and folded. Then we've got 2 frogs in an aquarium. We used to have fish, and I think the frogs were supposed to keep them company or clean the tank or something, but the frogs killed the fish, and now they mostly float. They play dead. It's their favorite game. Or maybe they've got a staring contest with each other. Whatever it is, it takes a lot out of them. Drizzle some dried food in there, and they swim like crazy, and then they settle back into whatever lazy game they play. So, if you're keeping count, we're at 10. But that's not all. Because we've got kids who walk around with crumbly crackers in their hands, and teens who take turns leaving the kitchen a mess overnight, they're on a rotating schedule. One of them ignores the dishes while the other ignores the counters, and the next night they switch jobs. And every so often, this slow accumulation reaches a critical mass. And just when it seems like we're headed for a household dirt disaster, a cleaning crew materializes. Like magic, like nighttime elves trying to grant some desperate wish, and they pick up the crumbs and they lick our unwiped kitchen counters, and the more mess we make, the more of them manifest. They even multiply, magically replicate themselves, or they would, except, well, this is the kind of cleaning crew that'll shock you in the morning. Turn on the light, and a tiny night shift janitor skitters away from the sink. And if you see one, that means there's already 100, and it'll be 10,000 by Tuesday. So, at the first warning sign, we go into disaster mode, scorched earth. And I mean scorched in the sense that Elizabeth says if she sees one more bug, we'll have to torch the house and start over. So, we tear the place apart and put it back together. And just to be crystal clear here, when I talk about a messy house, I mean, and I know this is going to sound a little bit elitist, but I'm talking about the master's degree version of a messy house, not the high school dropout version, so adjust your mental image. Elizabeth and I are both from slums, but we've worked our way up. We don't live in filth. Anyway, so the population of our house is in flux. There's a bunch of us, and we get the occasional population boom. We bust it, and the cycle starts over. Pests. Or, in a way, I guess we've got to call them pets, since the kids are always leaving food out for them. You got to remind Malcolm 10 times to feed his ferrets, but they never forget to leave scum on the counters and crumbs on the floor. I feed them too, by which I mean peanut butter and snap traps for little trick-or-treaters. I even set up tiny motels, and they show up not to be guests, but to be the janitors. Roaches don't move into motels. They just want to clean them and go home. And I encourage them, take some of the continental breakfast with you when you go. I think of these guests as pests in my house, but that's culture, not nature. By nature's standards, I'm just passing through, a fleeting inconvenience, a house guest living in an artificial habitat, some bizarre box specifically designed to keep nature out. Which is comical, since the humans in the house are part of nature too. From nature's perspective, I live in a big piece of litter, something Mother Earth will have to clean up someday. Not just me in particular. From nature's perspective, Notre Dame and the Egyptian pyramids are big chunks of man-made trash too. The termites see dead wood and they go to work. Never mind that the dead wood is a cathedral. Humans build temples and pyramids because we desperately want to believe that life has purpose, but secretly doubt it. Termites, don't have existential crises. They don't even seem to care whether they exist or not. They just see a job to do, and they do it. And if the job is too big, they make more termites to help. I sit at a desk, pondering the meaning of life. Sometimes I fill a page, sometimes I have nothing to say, but a termite would just eat the desk, since the wood's not alive anymore. And then, eventually, termite droppings would fertilize a new tree. Sigmund Freud wrote that you'll never convince a man that he's a termite, and sometimes I wish that Dr. Freud were wrong. Everything in nature has a job to do. Some creatures clean up, some are there to make a mess. Lions will tear a gazelle to pieces. The jungle pathway looks like red Mardi Gras just passed through. But their sloppy mess benefits the whole community of forest life. Once they've finished stuffing themselves and wander off, scavengers will show up and chew the bones. Critters run off with the scraps. Insects swarm the fragments. And bacteria ingest the rest of the mess. The human being got started as a scavenger, not a mighty hunter, but a sort of biped jackal, a member of the cleaning crew. But now the natural order is out of whack. Humans have stuffed the lions for museum pieces, becoming the #1 trash producer on the planet, and outlawed the waste management species. We've turned the mice and bugs into illegal vigilantes. We've developed toxic poisons so even the microscopic bacteria can't clean up for us. But they'll never give up. We have international summit conferences about how to deal with the problems of pollution, and the Creepy-Crawlies just keep cleaning. Insects appear on the first page of the Bible. God approaches a swampy chaos, all of the matter of creation, and starts dividing it, sky from slop, and then slop into land and sea. God populates the sea with fish and the sky with birds, and then on the 6th day of creation we read, God said, "Let the earth bring forth the cattle, the creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after its kind," and it was so. Except, apparently, it wasn't so. It didn't happen. So God had to do it manually, as we read next. And God made the beast of the earth after its kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after its kind, and God saw that it was good. God knew that all of these birds and beasts and cattle would need someone to clean up after them. The Bible and the biology textbook agree that insects were here before people, who showed up later. The creeps were deemed good in the beginning, but in their next biblical moment, they will appear as one of the plagues used to punish Egypt for refusing to let God's people go. These disasters include lice, gnats, and flies, and then come the cicadas. In the book of Exodus we read, "The Lord made an east wind blow across the land. Locusts invaded all Egypt and settled down in every area of the country in great numbers. They covered all the ground until it was black. They devoured everything growing in the fields and the fruit on the trees. Nothing green remained on tree or plant in all the land of Egypt." The good news is they probably cleaned up the prior plague of dead frogs. These invaders were well-organized anarchists, as we read in the book of Proverbs. Locusts have no king, yet they advance together in ranks. And they're also kosher, as God revealed to Moses on the mountaintop. You may eat any kind of locust, cricket, or grasshopper. John the Baptizer was an insectivore, subsisting on a diet of locusts and wild honey, according to Mark 1:6. But his Padawan Jesus became more popular, which is why Christians eat communion wafers instead of cockroaches in church. It could have gone either way, and Southern Baptists in their Sunday best would be lining up to crunch a sort of Eucharistic Rice Krispie treat of bugs and honey. Well, not to spoil the ending, but the insects also get a big moment in the last book of the Bible, the Revelation, where God punishes the heathens and the pagans and the Unitarian Universalists with an army of locusts the size of horses, with human faces and women's hair, lion's teeth, and scorpion stingers. We read in Revelation 9:10, "In their tails they had power to torment people for 5 months." I'm not precisely certain what this might mean. Apparently the poison in their stingers was not lethal, but just enough to give unbelievers a hard case of seasonal depression. Anyway, the Bible and the biology textbook agree that the insects were here first and that the creeps shall inherit the earth. The Egyptians, who withstood the plagues of insects, had a special religious veneration for the scarab beetle, which rolls up balls of dung to lay eggs in. The Egyptians saw this action as a parallel with the god whose job it was to roll the sun across the sky each day, like a flaming dung ball. And since the Egyptians believed the sun was swallowed by a goddess each night and rebirthed in the morning, the scarab also signified regeneration. So the scarab beetle, or dung beetle, is a common symbol in Egyptian seals, their version of the postage stamp, plus jewelry. It was highly fashionable to go around ancient Egypt with amulets and rings depicting dung beetles. In ancient China, the insect of immortality was the cicada, which, depending on the specific type, can spend the first year or 16 years of its life underground, then emerge, climb a tree, sing for a month, and drop dead, having lain eggs of cicada babies who will fall down to earth, burrow, and start the cycle over again. So it became customary for the Chinese to bury a dead relative with a carved jade cicada in their mouth as a sign that burial was not the end of existence and death is not the end of song. As a little boy in Ohio around 1987, I got to witness a great Cincinnati Cicada Awakening. The elementary school prepped us with a month of lessons and even a song, and when they arrived, a great humming cloud of them. They covered the trees and left their hollow shells everywhere. Apparently, these Cincinnati cicadas had been sleeping since 1971, when Tom Jones settled them down by singing She's a Lady. They slept through classic rock, disco, punk, and new wave, and awakened to Whitney Houston singing I Want to Dance with Somebody. Actually, come to think of it, that's the year everyone was listening to the Dirty Dancing soundtrack cassette. So some of the cicadas must have thought they'd slept backward into the summer of '63. Cicadas turning Sweet 16 were literally having the time of their lives. In Greek mythology, the cicadas had once been human musicians who were blessed by the muses with the power to sing and dance without ever needing rest or food. But because they never ate, they got smaller and smaller till they eventually looked like dried crickets and dropped dead. But the muses blessed them again with the ability to rise up singing every few years, perform for a month straight, drop dead, and the cycle continued. The Athenians even minted silver coins with cicada images symbolizing devotion to the muses of song, dance, and poetry. The most famous mythical insect I remember from growing up was Jiminy Cricket, the sidekick in Disney's Pinocchio. When Carlo Collodi began writing his series of Pinocchio stories for an Italian children's magazine in the early 1880s, he did indeed include an anonymous talking cricket who encouraged the naughty puppet to be a good boy. But the puppet picked up a hammer and flattened it. And the story wasn't very popular, so Collodi wrote a final chapter where a fox and a cat hanged the naughty puppet, and that was that. But then the magazine series kind of went viral, so Collodi returned and continued it, bringing Pinocchio back to life, and since it was a marionette, hanging wouldn't have killed him anyway. And the ghost of the talking cricket returned to scold him further, safe from stomping. I don't count my blessings as often as I should, and when I do, it would never occur to me to count all of these uninvited house guests. But I suppose, in a way, I should, because my anxieties are always festering somewhere in the back of my brain, creeping up on me, multiplying, and you can't fumigate for anxiety. That just produces paranoia, which is even worse. Well, I can't drain the swamps of Washington any more than I can clean up the mess in Israel. But this week, we did a deep cleaning in our kitchen, one little room in one little corner of the world. And even after one of those endless nights lying awake with anxiety, coming downstairs to a safe, clean kitchen makes the morning a little brighter and helps me to step out into the world, take a look around, and ask, now what can I do to make this place a little brighter, a little safer, and a little less creepy? Thank you for listening. This has been Animal Magic, and I have been Jay Snodgrass, and at some point we'll be again. Yeah. So thanks, and we'll, I don't know, not see you, but whatever, next time.